after you get back from the ball game Friday night, it's not going to be free. You're going to have to pay the $25 fee to have your admissions application processed. So just remember that. What I would advise is, say ETSU is on the bottom of your list. Go ahead. It's a local college. It's going to be convenient. Just like Tennessee Promise, you may want to go ahead and do that application. And having said that, I've met with a lot of students this summer who was asking about scholarships. And the scholarship application for next year is going to open. Some of them have already opened. Most of them are going to open sometime in September, October, and then they're going to close sometime in the spring. Now, UTK, they close, I think, before Christmas. I'm not sure, and I'm like your counselor. I'm not going to try to say dates right now, but definitely any college that you're interested in, go in and find those dates. And if you need help with getting information on the FAFSA, it will open October 1, but I can meet with students and parents now to help with that Federal Student Aid ID, that FSA ID. Every parent and a student is going to have that. There is a process. You're going to have to verify an email address. So if you don't have an email set up, you'll want to go ahead and get that done, because starting this summer, you cannot get that FSA set up without verifying an email address. And then I recommend verifying a cell phone too. So parents, don't put your information for your child, and kids, y'all don't put your information for your parents. Each person should create their own, and that way when they want to get back into it, they're going to know the answers and they're going to know the information, on how to get it retrieved. And let's see, couple of other things. There are going to be some open houses at the local colleges. I know Northeast State always has at least one in the fall and one in the spring. And then ETSU has one scheduled for Saturday, October 5th, and Saturday, October 19th, and they'll have 2 more in the spring. My son graduated in 2019, and I have to say, going to the open house was one of the most helpful things for him on narrowing down that program of study that he wanted to do. So you've got college fairs where a lot of times there's different colleges. The open house, there's going to be someone, usually instructors and program directors, that are setting up tables, and the students can go around and ask questions about that program of study. So if you're thinking about electrical or engineering, nursing, graphic design, that's a really good opportunity to get information on those programs of study. And even if you're going to go to a college away from here, if it's a similar program, a lot of times, getting those questions answered can really be helpful. And again, I'll be back in the school frequently, and I hope if y'all need help, you're welcome to give me a call.
All right, thanks y'all. So we're going to talk about the money aspect of college. How are we going to find funds to pay for the college education, whatever that looks like, because it's going to be different for everyone. And we've already talked a whole lot about FAFSA. We've already talked a whole lot about Tennessee Promise. I do have some slides on those things, but if we've already covered it, I'm going to go pretty quickly with that stuff unless you have questions about it. Now, when we talk about FAFSA, you may have questions on my very, very favorite topic on FAFSA, which is quirky family dynamics. If you live in quirky family dynamics, which means that your relationships are not necessarily what we might consider traditional, you are divorced, separated, blended family, dysfunctional family of any kind, you may have some different questions about how do we complete the FAFSA and which parent group goes on the FAFSA. If you have questions like that, I will stay after and I'll kind of come over to the side so you can come and talk to me individually about quirky family dynamics, and I can kind of give you some guidance on what to look for in terms of your FAFSA when you get to that point. But let's talk about stuff. And also, there's going to be some slides up here that you may want to take pictures of, and you are more than welcome to do so, because I'm going to show you dollar amounts that are going to come to your student based on their academic record, based on need-based information that we're going to get when you complete that FAFSA, and it's going to be based on the different types of colleges that we have here in the state of Tennessee. So anything that you want to take a picture of, you are more than welcome to do so, all right? So we've talked about FAFSA, we've talked about FSAID. The only thing I'm going to follow up with on this one is make sure that you are going to FAFSA.gov, all right? Sometimes we have eager beavers go to FAFSA.com and do the FAFSA application, and it's a paid site, and you're being charged, and that's not what we want you to do. So make sure that you're doing FAFSA.gov. And a lot of times, families will come to me and say, well, we know that our income level is too high to receive a Pell Grant, so why exactly would we do a FAFSA if we know that we're not going to get a Pell Grant? So the state gets a copy of your FAFSA, and we look at your FAFSA to determine what you are eligible for from the state perspective. Every single institution that you might attend is also going to get a copy of your FAFSA. You're going to determine who gets that when you complete your FAFSA application. And they're going to look at your FAFSA results to determine what scholarships you're eligible for. We have a whole pool of scholarships that are for need-based aid. That means that your family criteria qualifies you to receive some financial grants from the federal and the state government based on family circumstances. We look at your adjusted gross income from your tax return, using that tax return from the previous year, the one that you've already done. So if you want to go home tonight and you look at line 37 on your tax return, that's going to be your adjusted gross income. If that is below $36,000 a year for your entire family, you will likely get at least a partial Pell Grant. If it's below $25,000, you will likely get a full Pell Grant, which is around $7,000. Now, I know the number is ridiculously low, but we have to consider not all forms of income are counted on the FAFSA, and Pell Grant is designed to help those families with the highest degree of financial need, okay? So it's not designed to be for every student. That's what scholarships are for. We're going to talk about those too. But all of your state scholarships, all of your federal, and every institution that you might be applying to are all going to use your FAFSA to determine what you're eligible for. And there's a whole pool of money on the other side that is designated for students that do not have financial needs. So don't feel like you're being left out if you're not eligible for anything based on your FAFSA, because a lot of scholarship donors will designate money to go to students who do not meet the criteria for a Pell Grant, because they know that students who do get a Pell Grant have access to a lot of extra money. So they want to make sure that their money goes to students who don't. So there's lots of money on both sides of that. So don't feel like you're being left out. FAFSA checklist, basic stuff. Social security number, birthday, demographics, name, address. Make sure, like Ms. Donna was saying and like Ms. Reed was saying, make sure that when you're working on that FAFSA, one, you take your time, go slow, don't be in a hurry. If you've got to stop and take a break, stop and take a break, because you do not want to mismatch information. That is the only thing on the FAFSA that's difficult to fix. It can still be fixed, but it takes about 6 weeks sometimes, because if you put your social security number and your student's birthday and you send it in that way, that person doesn't exist, and that's fraud. And so then you have to prove that both you and your student do in fact exist, and you have to prove documentation of that, and then they will then at some point say, okay, we'll fix this for you. But it is usually about a 6 week process. So be sure you're taking your time, you're double checking all of your information before you submit anything. And you can work on it in small increments. Just be sure you've got about 30 days from the time that you start your FAFSA application to submit it. And if you do not submit it, it wipes it clear and you get to start all over again. Okay? So you don't want that to happen. You don't want to do that work and then have that happen. So all of your tax information, like I said, is pulled from 2018. So most frequently, you're going to use the IRS data retrieval tool, and this is going to pull your tax return in from the IRS database into your FAFSA application. This is much faster and it's much more accurate. So I recommend using that tool but you do not have to. If you want to go through all the steps and enter information manually, you are still able to do that. You're not required to use that IRS data retrieval tool. This is just showing you an example of what the student and parent sections look like. They used to actually be two different colors, which made it a little bit easier to notice when you were changing sections, but now it just says student and parent. And it will go back and forth. It starts with student, and then it goes to parent, and then it goes back to student. So it goes back and forth, so it can be confusing. If you start feeling like you are answering the same questions over again, that is a good sign that you might be moved on to a different section and not realize it, all right? So double check yourself kind of at each page. Just make a habit of checking that to avoid a lot of work later on. All right, let's talk about the money, right? So this is state money, and like I said, I have this broken down by the type of institution that you might be attending at our TCATs. Now, you'll see the things that are in pink, you'll see the key down at the bottom. Things that are in pink are need-based. That means that you're going to qualify for these funds based on the results of your FAFSA application. Your family adjusted gross income, meaning your earned income, is less than $36,000. In some cases, it will need to be that lower number of $25,000, depending on. So you will be able to use your Pell Grant at the TCAT. You will be able to use a fund from the state of Tennessee called Tennessee Student Assistance Award. You can see the dollar amount on there. It is $1,000 a year, basically, $999. The TCAT has 3 trimesters instead of 2 semesters, so it breaks it down by trimester. But that award is going to be issued at the beginning of each trimester so that your student has money to pay their tuition and oftentimes have extra money to pay for supplies and transportation and things of that nature. Now, a couple of funds that every student has access to, because they are not need-based and they are not academic-based or merit-based. Wilder NAEFI, every student that does a FAFSA application indicating the TCAT and enrolls in the TCAT is going to get $2,000 a year to offset the cost of tuition at the TCAT. Every student can do Tennessee Promise. It is not academic-based either, so every student has access to those Tennessee Promise funds, and they will pay the balance of your tuition at the TCAT. So, in essence, every student goes to the TCAT completely tuition-free. The only cost that you may have to pay at a TCAT is, like I said, transportation cost, food, utilities if you're living on your own, equipment that you might need, safety goggles, scrubs, depending on what program that you're going into. And grown-ups, State of Tennessee has a program for you too. If you are thinking this is a good time in your life to go and increase your skill set or change gears completely, the TCAT is free for adult students as well. It's called Tennessee Reconnect. And it works very much the same way as Tennessee Promise, but it is specifically for adult students. You can go to the TCAT tuition free. And it doesn't matter. You can have a PhD in aerospace technology, and you can still go to the TCAT for free, because it's not based on any prior credentials that you have. All right? Free for everybody. At the community college, we're going to see a lot of the same stuff. Pell Grant, you can use at the community college. You'll see the number is the same. Your Pell Grant, that's your max Pell Grant. That's up there, all right? It's going to look different because trimesters versus semesters, but the dollar amount is the same. And no matter where you go to school, whether you go to a TCAT, a 2-year, a 4-year, a public or private, your FAFSA, your Pell Grant is always going to be the same dollar amount based on your family circumstances. It does not go up and down with the amount of tuition the way some awards do. You're also going to be able to use TSAA, which is Tennessee Student Assistance Award. Again, it's a need-based award, so not everybody's going to see this money. But if you're eligible for it and you get it, at the community college, it's giving you $1,300 a year, all right, $650 a semester. Tennessee Promise, you can also use at your community college. Tennessee Promise you can use on any program up to an associate's degree. And so typically we think of our community college, Northeast State, Mississippi State. Gosh, if you want to go out west, you can go to Jackson State, all the way over by Memphis. And it all works the same. All right, the community college system, up to an associate's degree, you're going to be able to use that Tennessee Promise. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like here in a minute. Because we do still have a lot of confusion around Tennessee Promise and the difference between promise and hope, and how do we use it, where do we use it, what's the advantages to using it, what are the disadvantages to use it. So those are the kinds of questions that I really want to answer for you, because that's more nitty-gritty stuff. We want to talk about that. But also, you'll notice new Hope Scholarship. So if your student, or you as a student, and you can kind of think back here, if you have a 21 or higher composite on your ACT, students, or if you will be graduating high school with an unweighted GPA of 3.0 or above, you have already earned your Hope Scholarship. You've already earned it. It's in the bag. You're going to get that money. All right? Now, how much you get varies a little bit by the type of college that you go to. At the community college, you're going to get $3,000 a year for that Hope Scholarship. Very important to remember that in order to continue to receive your Hope Scholarship, you have got to hit certain GPA benchmarks when you're in college. All right? Plan on a 3.0, because when you get to your junior year, if you do not have a 3.0, you no longer get that scholarship. And it is really much harder than you might think to bring up a college GPA from 2.75, which is what you need freshman and sophomore year, to a 3.0 for that junior year. So just plan on keeping a 3.0 every single year, or higher. You can go higher if you want to. Every single year, 3.0 or higher. Here's your promise checklist, which we will glaze over because we've pretty much covered all of this stuff. I will be bringing our new brochures out to your school counselors here in the next week or so, and you will have this information in a handout, so you'll be able to take that home and have that to refer back to. I'll leave that up just a second because I see people taking some pictures. One of the biggest things that catches people on Tennessee Promise, two things. So many students will do the community service, get all your hours in, and not log it. So make sure that you are going into the Tennessee Achieves website. All this information is going to be in your handbook that you're going to get. Make sure that you're logging those hours that you do, because if you don't log it, it didn't happen. And the legislation, the law says, if you don't complete one of the steps of the Tennessee Promise, then the student has, quote, the student has self-selected to forfeit Tennessee Promise, unquote. That's the way the law reads. And so every single one of those steps is critical. The other thing that catches students a lot of times off guard, you may be selected for a FAFSA process called verification. And your school has a report that they can run, and if they don't have it, I can get it for them, and it will tell them who's been selected for verification. You want to check your school email, not your high school email. Your college email, your personal email, anything that comes from FAFSA or FSA, you want to check that, because it's going to tell you very early if you've been selected for verification, and you must complete that process. If you do not complete that process, you will not have any funding of any kind. So watch your email for anything that comes from FSAID or from FedAid for details on that. So here's how Promise works. And I just like to give these examples so you can kind of get a little bit better idea. So let's say that you are student A. You're going to get some Pell money, you're going to get some TSAA money, you got a little Hope Scholarship coming your way. Well, if you are going to the community college, which is where we see Promise being used, you've got more than enough money to cover your tuition. And because Tennessee Promise is a last dollar scholarship that's only used on tuition, you're not going to see any Tennessee Promise dollars because your tuition is already covered through other types of federal and state aid. Now, if you're getting a scholarship from your community college, that's pocket money, right? That's extra. You're going to get that money to help you with your books and your transportation, all those other costs of attendance. If you're student B, you see you got a little bit of a gap because you got that Hope Scholarship, and that's going to pay a good portion of your tuition. But there is a little bit of a gap, and Tennessee Promise is going to cover that balance of tuition. Again, It's only applying state and federal aid. It's not applying any outside scholarships. So if you got a scholarship from the college, you got a scholarship from the Kingsport Rotary Club, that's your money. It's going to go in your pocket, okay, for you to use on your other educational expenses. If you're student C, you might be one of my kids because you didn't get the Hope Scholarship because you just decided you didn't want to work that hard. That's okay. My kids are that way. And you didn't qualify for any federal aid. So you're looking at paying out of pocket for this college experience. But as long as you do that Tennessee Promise process, Tennessee Promise is still going to cover your full tuition. Now, the part that I think is really important to remember, especially if Tennessee Promise is your backup plan, I think it's critical for you to remember that should you find yourself moving from student A or student B and all of a sudden you become student C because you lost your Hope Scholarship or family circumstances changed and you're no longer Pell eligible, as long as you have kept up with your Tennessee Promise requirements, you are still going to have tuition-free education up to the associate's degree. All right? So that is how that works. So if for no other reason, like Ms. Reed said, backup plan, backup plan, backup plan. It's not much work to do to have a good, solid backup plan. And I can tell you some horror stories of my own about people that wish that they had done it. All right, so let's talk about our four-year schools. Again, you're going to see a lot of very similar stuff here. Your Pell Grant stays the same. It's always going to be the same. It is need-based, so you're only going to get it if you qualify for it based on your FAFSA. TSAA goes up to $2,000 a year because TSAA does fluctuate with the cost of attending any particular school. So that's why we see the least amount at the TCAT, we see a moderate amount at the community college, we see a little bit more at the four-year public, and we're going to see even more at the four-year private schools because they're more expensive than public schools. Your Hope Scholarship. If you are going to a four-year school, public or private, either one, and you're using your Hope Scholarship because you've earned it, at the four-year school, your initial amount is going to be $3,500 a year. Okay? $3,000 at the community college, $3,500 at the four-year. When you become a junior, whether you become a junior because you took enough classes at the four-year school, or you become a junior because you completed your associate's degree at your community college and you transfer that over to your four-year school, both of those scenarios make you a junior. When you become a junior, your Hope Scholarship award goes up to $4,500. And again, you've got to keep at least a 3.0 GPA to keep that. So be watching that GPA all the time. Watch that GPA. It'll creep on you without you really realizing it. And then at the private school, really the only difference that we're looking at here is that TSAA money, which goes up to $4,000 a year. And this is for our private schools, trying to give students that have high financial need a little bit of a leg up, a little bit of opportunity when it comes to their education. And of course, like any other scenario, whether the money is free or the money is not free, you have to be able to get into that school, right? Also, while we're talking about that, I want to note that we have some schools that are starting to kind of pick up on their programming in terms of financial need. And so Carson Newman now has a policy that if your family income is less than $40,000 a year adjusted gross income, then if you can get in academically to Carson Newman, then you are going tuition free. You have to cover room and board if you're going to live on campus or commute, but it's tuition free. UT has a program. If your adjusted gross income is less than $40,000, then it is free. Tuition, room and board, everything is free. If you're under $50,000, then the tuition is free. You still have to cover room and board or commute, but the tuition is free. And so we're going to see more and more colleges kind of join in this type of giving from the college's perspective, or from the college's side, to be able to fund education for more and more students all the time. So just want to emphasize that if you are going out of state if you have decided that the college of your dreams is somewhere across the border, whether it's Western Kentucky or Auburn or Clemson or wherever your dream school is, I would ask you to consider staying in-state up to the bachelor's degree, where you can get a cheap or free education, and then the piece of paper that hangs on your wall from your master's degree, it can have any stamp that you want on it, because the free money and the scholarship money really dries up after the bachelor's degree, so it makes good financial sense to go ahead and do all your 4 years in-state and then go out-of-state if you want to have a college experience at a particular institution. From the financial aid perspective, the only thing that you can take out-of-state, because Pell money is federal money, it's not state money, you would still be able to use your Pell Grant. Everything else that we've talked about is Tennessee state money, and you cannot take it out-of-state with you. Even if you're just the absolute stellar student, it's Tennessee money, it has to stay in Tennessee. So keep that in mind when you're making these final selections of what college you want to go to. We've got a couple supplements that go along with the Hope Scholarship, and they are based on 2 different criteria. Obviously, one is need-based, and one is academic-based. So students that have a 29 or higher ACT, and, not or on this one, and a 3.75 unweighted GPA, are going to be offered an award called GAMS, the General Assembly Merit Scholarship. It's $500 a semester, no matter where you go in-state. It's $500 at Northeast State, it's $500 at ETSU, it's $500 at Vanderbilt. Doesn't make any difference, it's always the same amount of money. The other award that we have is called Aspire. And Aspire is offered to students who meet both criteria, the one for a Pell Grant and the one to meet the Hope Scholarship. And so they're offered $250, $250 at the community college, $750 at the 4-year school. So here's what happens. Students are not allowed to get both of these awards. So if you're a student and you are actually qualified for all of those awards, the Hope and the GAMS and the Aspire, the state of Tennessee automatically awards you the highest amount possible. So if you're going to the community college, we're going to give you GAMS instead of Aspire, because it's more money. If you're going to a 4-year school, we're going to give you Aspire instead of GAMS, because it's more money. So we're automatically going to give you the highest amount that we can, and when you're applying or when you're claiming all of these scholarships that you're getting from the state, there is not a separate application for any of these except for Tennessee Promise. All of our other state awards are automatically filled when you complete that FAFSA application. So there's not extra paperwork that you have to do for any of that stuff. All right, last thing I really want to talk about is student loans. Because student loans are part of your federal student aid package. When you get an award letter from your school of choice, it's going to have student loans on it. Every single, students, raise your hands. If you're a student, raise your hand. All right, so every single one of you is about to be offered $5,500. Yeah. And you don't have to have a job. You don't have to have a credit score. You don't even have to make your bed on a regular basis. You're going to be offered $5,500. And the only thing that you have to do to get it is say, yes, I want it. So tonight, this weekend, this month is a really good time to sit down as a family and talk about your values and how it meshes with student loans. Is that something that you're entertaining? Is it something that you will resort to if you need to? If so, how much? What's the aggressive plan to pay it off? Because it will be part of your student aid award. And when you're going through those awards and you're accepting the awards that you want to keep, make sure that you know which ones are free and which ones are loans. And that you've had this family discussion before you check that box on the loan that says, yes, please, I'll take that money. All right? Think about that. Students are going to be offered two different types of loans. An unsubsidized loan, which is what most everybody will be offered, is interest-bearing from day one. When you sign your paperwork that says, yes, I will take out a loan, it's going to begin to accrue interest. And the interest formula that's used on student loans is continuously compounding interest. So every single day, interest is added to your principal, and then you're charged interest on the new principal the next day. So if you think about that, it grows exponentially on a regular basis. So again, lots of caution when it comes to student loans, be savvy, all that sort of thing. Subsidized means that, and you have to qualify for a subsidized based on your Pell results. Subsidized means that that portion of your loan, the part that's subsidized, is interest-free while you're in school. So clearly, if you've made a family decision that a little bit of borrowing is okay, and you are eligible for some subsidized loans, that's the ones that you want to accept first. Because as long as you're in school, that interest is waived. Now, ideally, what you're going to do is have a very aggressive plan to pay that loan off while you're still in school, so that you're not carrying that debt into adulthood. I think more than anything else, we want to make sure that our students are not incurring a lot of debt for their education. So make smart choices, look for good values in your college choices. This is everybody who does this work across the state. I have all of your area. I have from Johnson County up to Campbell, down to Blunt on the southern side. My contact information, I'm Erica down there, and you're welcome to take a picture of that, or better yet, you can take a picture of that. That's a little bit easier to read. And while you have fabulous help inside these four walls and visitors that come to help you on a regular basis, should you find that you're getting frustrated or that you feel like you're not getting the information that you need from the college of your choice or anybody that you're talking to, or you need a little extra assistance, or you're just ready to vent on somebody who can take it, email me. Text me or email me. Don't call me, because this is what I do all day, every day, so I don't answer my phone very much. But seriously, if you're running into some problems, you have some questions, you want to understand better how something works, or the results of your FAFSA, please feel free to contact me. That's what I do. That's what I love doing. Do y'all have anything else that you want to close out with?
Oh, we forgot to tell you, don't use your school email address for anything outside of school, because you can't accept outside emails. So if you put down your 20 joe.smith@sullivank12.net, you're not going to get it from an outside source. It's blocked. So make sure that when you use that professional college email address you're going to use instead of your
Sullivan K-12.
Your Sullivan K-12 or your, Joe's Girl at whatever.com. Okay?
And like I said, if you have questions about working family dynamics or anything else that you might have a question about, I'm going to hang out up here, and you're welcome to come and ask me those